Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the car buying process. Don't get taken for a ride presentation. My name is Gregorio Alcantar. I'm a financial aid counselor and a financial literacy coordinator here at Cal State Northridge. I'm also an alumnus. I received my master's in counseling in 2006. Now, before we begin, in the chat box, please input whether you are a CSUN student or alumni. Please take a moment to follow the link in the chat box to take our survey after the presentation, and we'll go ahead and remind you at the end of our presentation. Okay, so this presentation is broken into 4 parts, and so these are the 4 steps to the car buying process. This presentation, I believe, is very important because students, alumni, individuals who are interested in buying a car would be great if they actually were informed of what steps are important and necessary to take to be a well-informed consumer. And so the way I'm going to break this down is going to be budgeting. So we're going to talk a little bit about the legwork that has to be done way before you even step inside the dealership. We're going to talk about budgeting. We're going to talk about picking a car, which involves a lot of research. Then we're going to talk about when you're actually there at the dealership, buying the car, the negotiation process, and then we will end with the importance of what happens after you have your car. And believe it or not, there's also cost involved with that as well, and that will be under maintenance. Okay, so a lot of work has to be done way before you start the car buying process in terms of when you start going to the dealer. So the first thing, let's talk about budgeting. Before you start shopping for a car, you need to determine how much can you afford to spend. And what I've placed here is a chart or an Excel breakdown of a budget, which includes both income and your expenses. And as you are considering getting ready to purchase a car, you need to find out how much car can you afford. And so as you can see there by the red indicator there, car payment, you need to include that as part of your budget. Definitely begins by reviewing your budget and see where are you with your other expenses. And then the budget really helps plan where your money is going. I tell individuals that the budget is a way to determine where you are at this moment and where you want to be. And if one of the goals is to buy a car, then you need to budget so that you can plan for that expense. How much can you afford? You need to be real, okay? And here are some guidelines. You should not have a car payment that can take up more than 20% of your discretionary income after paying your regular expenses. Okay, so what does that mean? So if I go back here for a moment, as you can see here, we have our budget again, and there are fixed expenses and there are variable expenses. Fixed expenses are those expenses that you need money for that are important. Kind of think about your survival expenses, right? And then you have your variable expenses, which are expenses that don't usually happen every month and are always continuous. When you talk about discretionary income, that's money after you've addressed your expenses and you have money left over. So that money left over is more so, for example, when you're paying for your Netflix subscription, or you're going to go to the movies, or you're going to go eat out, things like that. So that is discretionary income. So once you've budgeted and you've come up with the discretionary income, then 20% of that seems like a good manageable guideline for purchasing a car or for putting for a car payment. So if my discretionary income was $2,000, then I'm looking at about a $400 car payment. If I was going to go higher than that, then something has to give in terms of my budget. I have to make adjustments. Okay, so now that you've looked at your budget and you determined that, okay, this is how much car I can afford, or my expenses are in order, then now you still can't go into the dealership. You still have to do some more work, and that involves picking the car. Now, I have placed here some examples of places that are very reputable, and these are websites that you can go to get good information on cars. Research is important because it also gives you bargaining power. If you're very knowledgeable about the car that you want that you would like to buy, and you know everything, the ins and outs about it, then when you're at the negotiating table, they can't throw a fast one on you, or they can't really tell you something that you don't already know. And so it really, really helps. You want to pick a good car that's reliable. Yes, if you're interested in shiny bells and whistles, that's fine, but it shouldn't really be the main thing that you're really seeking here. Reliable is really the key here. Review reliable sites for information. As I mentioned, the Kelley Blue Book is a very good site. Cars.com is another one, and Carfax is another site. And I invite you to definitely use those as a way to research your car. Okay, so as you continue to review the importance of picking a car, how much car do you really need? And as you're looking at those books or those websites, you want to look at the type of car. Are you interested in a compact car? Are you interested in a sedan, in a sports car, in a truck, in a two-door, in a four-door? And then we can just keep going on and on, right? All those things have to be looked at and considered. Well, do you drive it much? Do you need a car because you are commuting from far? Is there a lot of wear and tear? Are you going to be in traffic a lot? Do you live close to campus? Car features, are you interested in Apple's CarPlay, the bells and whistles? That's when you start getting into that. Heated seats, power windows, are you okay just using the manual up and down? And those are some things you want to keep in mind when looking and picking your car. Now, you also want to identify your needs versus wants. Now, you may think that this just has to do with what we mentioned earlier in terms of your budget and expenses and fixed versus variable, but it also involves regarding the car. You need to prioritize. You may need to trade off some of the wants for a lower price. So, for example, if you really like the Apple's CarPlay, but you really like something else about the car that's more important, then are you willing to sacrifice that particular, what do they call it, add-on or additional, I'm missing the word, but it's object, yeah, that can be part of the car. Select 3 or 4 choices that meet your needs and research the features of each car. And that just kind of goes with trying to pick some cars or makers and compare what is the what are some of the good things on each car that you'd like. Make a pros and cons list. That's very good. That's very recommendable. Compare your choices and weigh which one is the best option for you. Any car you evaluate must fit within your budget, and that's really, never lose sight of that. Your budget is really your guiding force. And if you've already determined that this is how much car or payment I'm willing to make, then kind of stick with that, and then really it's going to help you when you're at the table. The reason why I want to say that it's important that you want to evaluate, the car you evaluate must fit within your budget. I'll share a story that I heard. So one individual asks another, what's going on? I feel that you're so nervous. You're jittery. And he's like, yeah, I know I haven't been able to sleep, and regarding my car. And so the other individual goes back and asks him, well, why can't you sleep? Are you afraid that they're going to steal the car? It's like, no, I can't sleep because I don't know how I'm going to make next month's payment. And you don't want to be in that situation. Now, here's a chart that talks about 3 different things to think about, or different ways to picking a car, or when it comes to purchasing a car. So there's leasing, there's buying a brand new car, or there's buying a used car. And all 3 of them offer their own pros and cons. Let's talk about leasing first. When you lease a car, it's an agreement that you're making with the dealer to use the property, which is the car. So it's not your property, it's their property, but you have an agreement for a specified time and a monthly payment. Think of it almost like renting. You don't own the car, you're only renting it. The car is available for purchase at the end of the lease, so if you agree to a 5 lease term or rent it for 5 years, then at the end, you are welcome to purchase it if you like. People can afford to lease expensive cars, and they would be able to finance. So leasing is an option for those who are interested in getting a car every 2 years and don't mind the whole depreciation value, or are really concerned about that. The leasing kind of helps deal with that, but it's usually for high turnaround in terms of vehicles. Advantage is there's no down payment, no trade-in to worry about, new car for every few years. But don't know this, you own nothing, and you may pay penalties for excess mileage, wear and tear, which basically when you're leasing, they may say, yes, so we're leasing it for 5 years, but you can't use more than 12,000 miles per year, and so you have to be careful that you don't go over that. There's also buying a new car, and for when you actually buy a new car, it definitely is maybe more expensive. It loses value when it's driven off the lot, and that's just a fact. Cars depreciate the moment they're driven off the lot. There's less maintenance. However, there's less maintenance on a brand new car, so there's not a lot of after you buy the car, there's not a lot of expenses, and thus you save a lot on repairs. You own the vehicle because you bought it outright, and one of the great things about a new car, especially with laws that have here in the state of California, is that there's no small checks for at least 7 years. When you look into possibly considering a used car, you can save a lot of money because when you buy a used car, you don't really worry about the depreciation value, especially the big drop in depreciation as opposed to a brand new car. Because when you're buying a used car, it's almost true to the actual cost, and then when you look at the Kelley Blue Book, you can actually see the true cost there. It may need more repairs, it's possible, but a used car actually means about a year or 6 months old as well. It doesn't have to be 4 or 5 years. It could be just 6 or a year old. That's fine too. Bought an actual value, bought at actual value current for the car, and that's what I mentioned, that basically you don't have to worry about depreciation as much because you know the actual. And you keep the warranty. This is something very important to keep in mind. So as I mentioned too, if you are interested in a relatively new car, slightly used, so you're in the used area and you bought a car which is about a year or 2 years old, know that the warranty that's still on the car goes with the car, and so you are still able to take advantage of those benefits. So something to keep in mind as well. Now, don't assume you have to buy a used car. That's something I recommend to consider, but you don't have to. Because if you find the right new car, you get the right price, and you decide to keep it for a long time, you could save hundreds of dollars in the long run. So I just want to present you with 3 options that you have. All right, so you're still trying to pick the car out, right? You're trying to see which car feels right. Please consider test driving the car of your choice to see if the car lives up to your standards. Is it comfortable? Does it drive smoothly? How fast does it stop? Every detail that's so important to you should be considered. Don't window shop. Try the car on. It's all about the feel. It's a major purchase. Does it feel right? Take your time. Don't be in a hurry when shopping for this purchase. One of the tips I like to give is it helps to leave your wallet in the car, especially if you're window shopping and looking at the car and test driving. Do not, car salesmen are there. They know their job well. They have the right to, to sell you the car, to make money and things like that. But ultimately, you want to have the upper hand and saying when you're ready. And if it's really just a test drive, dealerships are definitely more willing to go ahead and allow you to do that, but that's just a tip I like to give. Common mistakes when picking a car is not enough cross-shopping. And you definitely want to, and by cross-shopping I also mean when you go to different dealerships too, because they all have, although there may be a suggested manufacturer retail price, dealers have different incentives and different perks or different prices that they add on or not, or do not add on, that can help you save. Settling for what is not on the lot, that is a very big mistake. If you have been doing your research and you have been really looking at all the different aspects of the vehicle that you're interested in, and you know exactly what car you are, then if that particular lot does not have the car, then you don't have to stick with that. You can go somewhere else, or you can work with that dealer and say, okay, could you go ahead and bring the car? Personal story, I bought my car, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, and I still remember like it was just yesterday. I knew exactly what car I wanted. I knew what color I wanted it. I knew what feature it was going to have inside, and if the dealer didn't have it, that was fine. I would go to the next. And I remember when I actually got to the dealer and I said, "This is the car I want," and I pointed to it, and it was actually hanging from I don't know. They propped it up so that they can see it. And the guy's like, "No, no, no. Why don't you take this other car that's here? It's ready to go." And so I know. I go, "I want that car. That's the car I want." And so it's what you want. Skipping the test drive, no, do not skip the test drive. You got to feel the car. Buying more car than you need is also a mistake. Okay, again, know what you need, know what is important to you, stick with that, and you should be okay. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get into the negotiating. Now, as I mentioned before I start here, is that dealers or salespeople, car salesmen have the right to make money, and they have the right to go ahead and sell you the car and do what they have to do, and that's fine. But when you walk in there, you just want to be that well informed. And so here are some things that may help you in that process. And this is about determining a fair price, and I'll explain exactly what that is. You need to decide what price you think is fair before you make an offer for a car. When you look at the Kelley Blue Book, for example, as a resource, it actually offers that type of information so that you already have a number in mind as you walk in there. Publishes great information and information on all models in all years. By looking up the model and year of the car you are considering, you can find an estimated fair price for it. And I'll explain that more in detail. One of the things that also helps you have a kind of like an upper hand, if you want to think of it that way, is the pre-approval process. And pre-approval is the process of getting a new or used car loan pre-arranged through a bank or a credit union. So before you even walk inside a dealership, you've already worked with the bank or a credit union, worked out the details about financing a vehicle, got the terms and conditions, got the correct rate, you're very comfortable with the payments that you're going to make. And so with this pre-approval letter, is something that they give you and saying, okay, when this is something you're telling the dealership, I've already worked out the details in terms of the negotiation process. I know what kind of car I'm going to get. I know how much I'm going to pay for it. I just want to make sure if I'm going to be able to buy it here at this place. And so it saves a lot of time too. Now, if you are going to go ahead and purchase the car and finance your car, the chart here on the right is basically wants to share that the FICO score is very important. And FICO score is tied to credit. And so if you're going to finance the car, more likely you're going to buy it on credit. And notice the bars, if you have a low FICO score, which is between 500 and 589, then whether you go to a bank or credit union or the dealership themselves do expect to pay more for your car because you're going to pay a high interest rate. Whereas if you go all the way towards the end of the chart, if you have a credit score between 720 to 850, then because you are a person who is responsible with credit, then the lending institution is more than willing to go ahead and have you pay lower interest on that particular loan. So that's just something to keep in mind too. Common mistakes when negotiating. And so these are some of the things you want to avoid. Buying unnecessary add-ons. All right, so when you're there, if there's something in the research that faltered that you missed or something like that, and they kind of catch it, they may just start adding other things that, hopefully if you did your research, you already thought about. And so, but buying unnecessary add-ons is a mistake, a common mistake. Alarm, sound system, floor mats, seat covers, navigation, they'll try to find any other way, right? Because like I said, they have the right to make a buck. Focusing on the monthly payment, that's definitely a big mistake too. One of the questions that I think will come up again is they like to ask, and then we usually like to answer it, is how much would you like your monthly payment to be? And then, you'll say $200, and then in the end you're buying a $50,000 car because they guaranteed you $200 a month, but you ended up buying more car. Saving up front that you want to pay, saying up front that you want to pay cash. That is just something that, I don't know, maybe if you say you want to pay cash, usually what they say with that is that they'll kind of negotiate the price lower or something like that. But, that's a big expense already, something that just maybe not consider. Being clueless about financing, that's why you're here in this webinar, because I'm actually just sharing with you that's important to understand how the financing process works. Because if you don't know, then there's just stuff that they can slide in there, right? Negotiating down from the sticker price, I'm going to show you how to negotiate from the bottom up instead of from the top down. Fumbling on the trade-in, and that's if you're really interested in trading your car, and so that just can become a bigger mess. But you definitely want to leave the trade-in way at the end or not bring it at all, and consider donating your car instead. Okay, negotiating, determining a fair price. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see, I had to go over this myself as many times as well, but let's see if I can explain it very clearly. So the sticker price on a car, or actually the manufacturer's retail price, is the price shown on the tag in the car's window, usually known as the MSRP. The sticker price is also shown in the car window, and I'll show you a picture on how that looks like. The fair price for a new car usually lies somewhere between the sticker price and the price the dealer paid for it. It's usually known as the invoice price. Now notice for the fair price, I didn't say used car, okay, because that's a whole different thing. But for a brand new car, the fair price is somewhere between the sticker price and the price the dealer paid for it. Now, according to AAA, the dealer's invoice is approximately 90% of the sticker price for compact and subcab cars, and 84 to 87% of sticker for luxury vehicles. I'll explain that a little bit more in detail. A fair price is likely between 3 to 6% over the invoice price. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so here's an example of what you see on a car, right? Or the sticker price, or the information about the vehicle. All right, so look at the top right, and it says MSRP. And this is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. That's not the actual price of the car. That's what the manufacturer is saying. This is what we recommend, and this is what I think is the value of the car, but that's what we suggest. The sticker price is at the bottom, and that is kind of like the total. Think of it almost like if you're buying a pair of jeans, that's the price of the car. So the MSRP is the manufacturer's suggested retail price. The sticker price is the price at the bottom. That is the final price at the window. The dealer invoice is the price the dealership paid. So when they get the vehicle, they purchased it for a lower price, way lower than the other top two, than the MSRP and the sticker price. The fair price is trying to be right in the middle between that dealer invoice, which is that low price that they paid for it, and then that sticker price. So you want to be in between that. So as you can see in the bottom right corner, so the sticker price would be 100%. So let's say you say, okay, yeah, what's the cost of the car? Here's the money, right? You paid 100% plus taxes. But the dealer paid for the car 90% of that price, right? They got a break. Well, you want to pay anywhere in between that, because again, they do have the right to go ahead and make a buck or two, right? Because if you say, oh, I want to pay way less than 90% of that, no, I don't even think they'll give you the time of day. So, but you want to negotiate between 94 and 97% of the price of the car, right? So if you go ahead and take, again, the Kelly Blue Book also gives you information about what is kind of like what the dealer paid, but I'm already giving you an idea. So it's like 90% usually. And so you can go up from that and then get a number. I hope this part makes sense. If not, go ahead and ask your questions, and at the end we can go ahead and probably use some examples, okay? All right. Continuing talking about negotiation. Statements like, this is the only car I want, and this is just what I'm looking for, and wow, and no, that weakens the bargaining position, because then you're tapping into emotions. And I got to give, props to car salesmen. I think they do take Psychology 101 because they really know how to tap into that. And so that's one of the things you don't want to do that. And I think, shopping with emotions doesn't really help you either. So don't reveal your emotions. Make your initial offer lower than the top price, and then be prepared to negotiate. So you want to start above that a dealer price. so between that 94 to 97% range. A car buying service allows you to choose the vehicle features you want, and the service will locate it, negotiating the price, and arrange for delivery. At the end, I will show you that there are places that you can go to where you don't have to go through all this process yourself. The negotiating, this is all done through the companies that can do this for you. You just basically say, this is the car I like, this is what I want to buy, this is how much I'm willing to pay, or this is how much I want to finance, and that's it. Everything else is handled by these organizations. There they are right there. If you don't want to negotiate, you can go through other means to purchase a car. So I've outlined three, and these are just examples. For example, Costco. If you're already a paying member, for example, not only are you saving, for example, on that gallon of milk, right? You can save even for purchasing a car because for members only, they already bring down the price and also try to stay within that 94 to 97% price that I'm talking about that you want to be called a fair price. Autoland is a type of service, for example, that works closely with credit unions, where you can walk into your local credit union and let them know, I'm interested in this kind of car, I want to be this much old, like 2-3 years old. These are the features I like. This is how much I like to pay. I'd like to check the financing, and then that's it. And then they go ahead and do what they have to do, and then they call you and say, okay, I think we found the car, and this is what it is. Would you like to see it? Would you like to test drive it? So that's pretty good too. And then CarMax. CarMax, one of the things I like about CarMax, in doing research, I found out that in CarMax, their tagline is, there's no haggling. Okay, there's no negotiation. The price that you see is the price that you'll pay. They've already accounted for where that 94 to 97% is. Yes, they are going to make some money on there, but they are promising that they have the lowest price you will find anywhere. And so, for example, that's just something that, if you just want to go and they won't, you can't even, don't even try, because they won't even give you the time of day to negotiate. That price is what you get. Tip, always try to ask for some freebies. It doesn't hurt. Okay, and so this just kind of goes into, it's a lot of information, but I've already just kind of been mentioning that it's important to look at whether you're going to finance your car through a financial institution. In other words, you went through the pre-approval process. You've already talked about the terms and conditions, whether your car loan is going to be 36, 48, 60, or 72 months. Do know that if you extend your time to pay your car back, you're going to have lower payments, but you're going to pay more interest over time. That's something to keep in mind. But you can also finance your vehicle through the car dealership. Now, one of the things I believe is that at the end of the day, car dealerships are definitely interested in keeping your business and in keeping you a long-time customer. And one of the ways, too, is that for you to consider their financing, which is something you can always explore. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then you've already went to your financial institution. But here are some examples of some of the things you want to keep in mind when it comes to financing with the car dealer. Most manufacturers offer similar programs, and in the end, sometimes car dealerships are owned by one major company, so the financing usually is from the same company anyways. But know that as well. Are you planning to finance it through the car dealership, or you're planning to finance it through your financial institution? My advice is that you should definitely come more prepared with the pre-approval, and you've done all that work, so that it helps a lot in the negotiation, especially because you're saying, this is what I can afford and this is what I'm going to pay, and I just want to see if it's going to work out with you here. Maintenance. So we've covered budgeting. We've covered picking a car, which is research, and then we've covered the negotiation process. The last part of this 4-part process is the maintenance. So you've driven the car off the lot, you either leased it, you either bought a brand new car, you either bought a used car. Okay, great. What happens the day after that, weeks after that, months after that? Well, the car has to be maintained, and do you know that there's costs involved with that as well? And so there's something I like to call the TCO, which is the total cost of ownership, because we only focus on the first 3 things, but what about that 4th thing? That really covers the whole gamut. Because depending on what car you bought, it may have certain maintenance and repair requirements. The owner's manual will always tell you what that is and when your car needs to be serviced. Typically, you change the oil every few thousand miles, have a major engine tune-up every 20 to 30,000 miles. But it really depends on the car, right? Especially if it's a brand new car. With technology nowadays, a car can last you a very long time before it needs a thorough oil change, but definitely follow the owner's manual. You should definitely plan for unscheduled repairs, like flat tires, broken belts, leaky hoses, maybe if you bought a used car, even if you bought a new car. Again, I'll disclose about myself, bought that brand new car, was it 14 years ago? In 4 years of driving the car, so I was still under warranty, my transmission blew out. And so, as you can see, it can happen, right? And I'm glad that it was covered within the warranty, but let's say it wasn't, right? That's something I would have to pay myself. Here's some other things to consider when, in terms of having the car now in maintenance, cost of operating the car, part of the whole total package. Fuel, gas, right? The cost of gasoline depends on the fuel efficiency of your car. What does that mean? Well, if you've gone to the gas at the gas station, you notice that there's 3 different numbers, right? 87, 89, and 92. And so depending on the manufacturer's requirements, you need to go ahead and put the correct octane, that's what they call it. Usually for high-performance vehicles, they usually use the higher octane. And so, Science 101, if you use higher octane, usually the fuel burns faster, and so you'll be going at the car dealer, you'll be going to the gas station more often. And so that's something to keep in mind. Whereas 87, which is cheaper on the side with the gas, but usually reserved for trucks or smaller vehicles, small SUVs and things like that, it's a little different. But there's a price difference there, and you definitely want to keep that in mind as well. Depreciation, a decline in the value of the property due to normal wear and tear. Well, depreciation, as you can see by the image here, every day the car is depreciating, right? And even though if you're maintaining the car, that's just how it happens. And you can look at the Kelley Blue Book as a guide, and you can see it gives you kind of like a chart of how it depreciates. Now, some cars depreciate faster. Other cars do not depreciate faster. All right, like I know, for example, the Hondas and the Toyotas depreciate slower than other cars. As the car ages, the number of miles driven increases, the physical condition begins to deteriorate, and mechanical difficulties arise, and that's all part of the depreciation process. Also, styles and consumer taste change over time. You want to be careful about this one because, you know, I've been driving my car for 14 years. It's still the same car, and yeah, I've seen new cars. You know, I've been interested in a new car, but, you know, I also have to keep things in mind as well. All these factors usually cause cars to lose market value as well. Not all cars depreciate, as I already mentioned. Depreciation is the single greatest cost of owning a car, especially if one of the ways to keep that in mind is, let's say you buy a car, a brand new car, and as you know, it depreciates very quickly, at least within its first year. And then in year 2, year 3, you decide to get a different car. You're going to lose more money in the long run because you lost that money, the depreciation. Gasoline is the second. You know, car runs on gas, and we find ourselves having to do that. The car will retain more of its value over time if it's well maintained and has fewer miles on it at the time of sale. Easier said than done, but it's something to keep in mind. And there are some, as I mentioned, there are some makers and there's some type of cars that maintain their value and their holding value more. Refer to, for example, Kelley Blue Book for more information on that. Okay, so we're getting near the end, but before we conclude here, I do want to leave you with 7 signs that you bought a good car. Sign number 1, it's reliable. It does not break down often, will last you at least 10 years. If you hold on to a car for 10 years and it's done good, very low maintenance, you have a reliable car. Number 2, a car you love. You enjoy getting the car, you enjoy driving it, Even if it's just to go buy a gallon of milk, you want to go in your car, you love your car a lot, that's great. Resale value means that after 7 years, which is usually a good marker, your car is still worth at least half of its driven off price. That's a good car. Insurance, very affordable, right? New cars are more expensive than used. Fuel efficiency, must I say more, right? You can get more money for the gallon, more miles for the gallon. The down payment, you placed a large down payment and you are saving on interest. So if you financed your car but you were able to put a lot up front, then you're financing less and therefore you're paying less interest. You bought a good car. And finally, the interest rate, which is tied to the first one, is because you are financing less, and also you have a very good FICO score. You have a low and affordable interest rate, which means you're going to save hundreds of dollars over time as you are financing this car. Okay, and the last thing that I'd like to leave you with is the key to car purchasing success, and that is to know that the key to car buying purchasing success is to know what you need, number one, have done the research, number two, and you don't budge, but you are reasonable at the negotiating table. And with that, I'd like to thank you. I have placed here some resources that helped me in putting together this presentation, and I invite you to use them to do more research or just to kind of get more information here. And so with that, thank you so much. Thank you so much to the Alumni Association for allowing me to be here and do this webinar with you. And at this time, we will go ahead and open up for questions that we may have from you folks in the webinar.
All right, Gregorio, thank you. So our first question for the evening, when you plan on buying a used car, what kind of mileage should the car have, and how old should the car be?
Okay, great question. All right, so this is the first part. How many miles should the car have? A general rule of thumb is that a car should not exceed more than 1,000 miles a month. So usually about 1,000 miles. So 1,000 miles times 12 months, which is a year, would be 12,000 miles. So if you use that as a marker, then you can then go ahead and determine for the used car how many miles the car has. So if a car is 5 years old, then 5 times 12 would be 60,000 miles or less is a good used car. And then the second part, Jonathan, it escaped me. What was it?
How old should the car be?
Well, how old should the car be? Okay. Well, that really depends, and it also depends on your budget. Because you did the whole research at the beginning and you determine, okay, well, at this time, I know that in our audience, we may have some college students at this time, and you are interested in buying a used car, and maybe right now your budget is very small. You can only afford maybe $200. Well, I'm not sure how much used car $200 may get you, but at this point, really, it's more about, is it a reliable car? Does it have what it needs for the time that you're going to actually hold the car for to? But if you are thinking of buying a car that's a little bit higher in terms of price, but also it's a used car, I would say if you stick within the 3-year mark, 3 years actually sounds good. So 3 years or less, that's good because, as I mentioned, you do keep the warranty of the vehicle.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Our next question here. Will I get a better deal at the end of the year for a new car?
Oh, yes. I've heard of that, and I actually agree with that. I've also listened to some podcasts about car dealerships, and one of the things that I found is that, yes, at the end of the year, car dealerships, and this is just part of their business process, have to make certain quotas. If they've been successful throughout the year, then they don't have nothing to worry about. But if they haven't, for that particular dealership or that company has not made certain quotas, that's what I can come up with, then what happens at the end of the year, they're rushing to make a sale of a vehicle, and they're willing to give you a lot of savings a lot willing to be more flexible with the negotiation. Yes, they do want to make some money, but they're willing to sacrifice a lot because in the end, they'd like to make their quotas. And what does that mean? That if they're successful in selling the cars that they need to sell, especially by a given year, then they win in the end when they're working with their the company or the maker. They get their incentives there. But for you, yes, you can get more deals towards the end of the year. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. Our next question, which is the best way to present a car in order to negotiate a trade-in?
Oh, I see. So okay. So if you are going to trade in the car, what's the best way to present? Well, first of all, you definitely want to make sure that you are very honest and disclose everything about the car, right? It helps to have your folder of all the maintenance that you did on the car, any work that has been done on the car, all that's important. And you want to introduce the trade-in at the end after you've done the negotiation. You have given the car, you've already determined the terms and conditions, and so you have this total out-the-door price that you're going to go ahead and willing to pay for. At that point, I would recommend that you introduce the trade-in so that you can then see it taken off from that total amount. Sometimes they'll ask you at the beginning of the conversation, do you have a trade-in? Are you willing to trade in that car? But it just gets lost in the negotiation process, and you don't want to do that. It's something you want to present after. If it helps parking around the block, that's cool. Otherwise, definitely just keep that at the end.
Awesome. Thank you. How does the negotiating process differ when you're leasing a car rather than buying a car?
Very good question. What is the difference between negotiating between leasing and buying a new car? Well, I think that with leasing, there's less negotiation because remember you're renting their property, and so they really kind of dictate how is it that you're going to use this car, what the price is for renting and things like that. And so there really is not that much negotiation there. Whereas with buying a new car, because you are owning the car, it's going to be your car, then yes, there's more, I think, more leeway there than leasing.
Awesome. Thank you. Our next question, can you explain how Costco can help finance cars?
Okay. So Costco is an example of a company that you can go and well, if you visit the local Costco, I'm not sure if they have a, what do you call it, like a booth where you can talk about their car program, their auto program. Usually you have to call a 1-800 number. But the way they can help is, first of all, they are an example of a company where they already have determined the price for the car at a lower price for their members only. So if I'm not a Costco member, cannot go and work through them to get this vehicle. It's only for members only. But they've already have worked with these car makers or these local dealerships, if that's what they're working with in the business, and have already determined this fair price for you. And so you just have to kind of work with them, and there's really no negotiation on that end when you work with the for example, with Costco, it's already having to just go and pay the price that they've determined it is.
Awesome. Thank you. Just a couple more questions here. So we have a question, how and where can I get my personal FICO score?
Okay, good. One of the ways that, well, for FICO score, it's a little different. Let me first, before I answer that question, let me say that one of the ways to check your credit worthiness is to check your credit report. And I know that the government now allows Americans to go ahead and check their annual credit, check their credit score at annualcreditreport.com. I believe that's the site. But you can check all the 3 different bureaus and then see that, make sure that it really reflects a history of your credit worthiness. The reason why you want to make sure that's all in order, because all that information affects the FICO score. But to answer your question, where do you get that information? Usually you have to pay a fee. And if you even went on Google, then typed in FICO score, you get all these different companies that are willing to go ahead and give you this information for a fee. And so I'll just basically say that you could also go through your banking institution. Maybe they will just charge you a small fee, but they are willing to run your credit and then actually get that number for you. Otherwise, you can go ahead and go online and then follow their instructions and then go ahead and get the score that way.
All right, thank you. That looks like it's about all we have for tonight's presentation for our car buying webinar with Gregorio Alcantar. You can see there in this last slide in the chat box, if you haven't done so already, please indicate whether you're a CSUN student or an alum. And lastly, take the survey and let us know how we did. If you liked this webinar, we do have several other webinars available to view online. They're all archived on our website at www.csunalumni.com. There were a bunch of questions that we weren't able to answer tonight, so if you do have further questions, feel free to email us at alumni@csun.edu, and we'll be happy and pleased to respond to you. Our next event coming up is December 3rd called Veteran Vantage Points. Feel free to check that out and all of our other events online at www.csunalumni.com. And I believe that's it for tonight. Thank you so much, folks, for joining in tonight, and we'll see you at our next event. Thanks.